lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. Yeah, by any means. I gotta get it. I gotta get it, the mindset. Hey, back with a vengeance, back on the grinds, back to the business. Hey, God is my witness, they watching my moves like shows they binging. Hey, best keep distance, all of my haters send best the wishes. I get to the bag with the quickness, no I don't need no assistance, no. Yeah, no playing it safe, I said let's get it, you say not today. What can I say, if you ain't gon' go for it, get out the way. Yeah, got no time to waste, can't be with me if you not at my pace. You not at my level, you not in my race. One foot on the gas, I'm pushing the brakes. Dancing with the devil, there's no recital. I'm killing competition, ain't no revival. I shoot it to kill it, I'm aiming for vitals. I'm showing no mercy when facing my rivals. Snakes in the grass, they getting exposed. I know they be lurking, I'm watching them close. Acting like friends, but really they foes. Saw they be scheming and said adios. Yeah, I gotta get it. By any means. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset. I gotta get it, the mindset.
Danish Esport Racing Championship is starting to draw to a close. Welcome to the season finale at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. I am Connery Maddock. I'm joined by Justin Prince for what should be an absolutely enthralling event here to finish off the season in the Danish Esports Racing Championship. Hugo Louise behind the scenes, Esteban Ballo for those track cameras. Lasse back has already secured the championship at this point, but it's a frantic battle for those positions just a bit further back. Justin, this is going to be the culmination in what has been a fantastic season, not only for Lasse back at the very top of the point standings by a country mile, but just the culmination in terms of the good racing that we've had throughout this season, and hopefully we can finish with a final flourish.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a very competitive season so far. Lots of different drivers have fought for spots on the podium. But today it's going to be curious to see who's going to be able to secure themselves the second spot of the championship. Martin Christensen, Marcus Jensen, Andreas Joachimsen all are very close in their overall points totals entering this final round of the season. This is going to be a competitive one for more reasons than one, Connery.
It definitely is. You can see how tight things are in terms of the points. They are up on screen for you now. Well, Christiansen holds a pretty healthy advantage over Marcus Jensen at the moment, but you can see that the drivers of Andreas Joachimsen, Magnus Vassson on the outside looking into that one as well. There's the track information up on screen. We're at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps, one of the most historic, one of the most well-loved road courses in the entirety of motorsports. 34 degrees Celsius on that track temperature, partly cloudy conditions, winds not going to be a factor for this one with winds that calm. But we're just about ready to get ourselves into qualifying here at the Belgian racetrack. Justin, first of all, expectations, especially since Lasse back, your championship winner, is not going to qualify.
Well, my expectations first off for today, this is a racetrack known for two things. Its tightness with off-track limits and its very quick speeds around the racetrack, because there's so many different sections where you can end up drafting off the back of somebody. A lot of the passes today are going to happen during the Camel Straight or the run to the final chicane today. Expecting a lot of potential slipstreams in at least the start of each of the heats today for some important position battles. But track position is also going to be very crucial, I think, in my opinion, Connery, to be able to make sure you have a shot of competing for victory today if you want to try and get the most points possible out of this round.
Yeah, of course, the draft is going to be a big factor here at Spa as well. Very long straights where you could just sit inside the toe of the driver ahead of you and let them pull you around the racing circuit. But practice times are on the left-hand side of your screen at the moment. Rasmus Busk actually setting the fastest lap here in practice by about half a tenth of a second there at the very front of the field. And Christiansen second place. You see Mikkel Gard there in third place. Lasse back though, only fourth in practice at the moment. We know he's going to be right at the bottom when it comes to qualifying, since he is not going to take part in that session, just to challenge himself to see how far he can work his way through the field during the race. We'll definitely keep track of his progress when it comes to that race session. But 40 seconds away from qualifying here, there's Magnus Vassson heading his way through the bus stop for basically the final time here in this practice session. And well, when it comes to moves, when it comes to overtakes here at Spa, Justin, it's all about doing it on the brakes into these heavy braking zones of Lecombe and into the bus stop as well. The two big opportunities.
And this is a big opportunity for many drivers too, when you think about it, Connery, to note the fact that we have 7 wildcard drivers in today's field, including this 29 machine. Nicki Thiim is amongst some of the 7 competitors that have been invited to run in this final round. This is something that DERC Wallman have been working on for the past few weeks or so, to bring these competitors onto the racetrack and really test a lot of competitors in this series. There are some drivers I know that are very excited for the opportunity to race against some of these real-world competitors today, Connery.
Yeah, and you can see one of the drivers, Nicki Thiim, actually breaking into the top 10 in terms of practice times here today. Lasse Sørensen's there as well. He's in the top 5. And of course, Sørensen, he's a NASCAR Whelen Euro Series Division 2 champion. He'll be moving up to Division 1. And there's a certain driver that'll be taking his place that we're used to in these races as well.
Yeah, if you'll remember back just a couple weeks ago, I mentioned this Andreas Jochimsen moving into the Whelen Series. Did a little background when seeing that Sørensen will be running in today's round. It's the exact same team he'll be joining. The DF1 Racing organization from Denmark will be where Andreas Jochimsen will be starting his Whelen Euro career. So congratulations once again to him. He was 12th in this practice.
Yep, you can see the rest down to P number 20 up on screen. You see Frederik Vesti as well in there. He's a FIA Formula 3 driver. And then if you see things cycle back all the way down in towards P30, there is Dennis Lind, the Intercontinental GT Challenge driver. So a lot of big names, well, at least big names in terms of Danish motorsports appearing for this finale. You can see right down to the very, very rear end of the field there. And soon we'll get ourselves the first couple of lap times being set in the qualifying session. Drivers on their out laps at the moment, and of course these drivers had to adjust to the new tire model being put onto these GT3 Ferraris, excuse me, partway through the season, and you could say that there's still some adjustments, some getting used to having to be made here, even coming into the final round of the season due to how late that came in.
Yeah, especially with the tire warming and how it affects qualifying. Some drivers have had different approaches, but the best approach, in my opinion, has been just run your normal line, just run your normal pace, and just treat it realistically. Some drivers you'll see right here will go back and forth and build up speed. That in turn means, Connery, though, that usually it's the second or third lap that ends up being the best of the laps in your qualifying. So if you make a mistake early here in this session, it's even more crucial now than before. If you make a mistake, you're likely not going to start well.
Yep, so drivers just coming across the line to start the first of their flying laps here. And soon, in around about 2 minutes time, we'll start to see where drivers stack up when it comes to the solo qualifying session that we have going on at the moment. You can see one driver there heading their way out of last source down the hill into Eau Rouge and Radion, one of the most dangerous portions of a racetrack anywhere in the world. But Vassen's able to negotiate it just fine as he'll head his way through now down the Camel Straight. It all seems a bit lonely here at Spa when you're in this solo qualifying session, but it is very much you versus the track at the moment. Try to spot your braking point in towards Lecombe, and these cars usually is the start of the curbing on that left-hand side is where you start to apply the brakes and just try to feed it as smooth as you can coming through the end of the first sector. Now downhill braking zone, always tricky in towards Rivage. Hug that inside line as much as you can all the way through to the exit, and then set your sights onto No Name Corner. Up over the curb though there, Vassenson. You gotta be so careful here with the track limits, and well, he seems to have gotten away with it for, so far.
Yeah, indeed, and this is the important part of the racetrack, in my opinion, because yes, the draft is very important to patrol you around Connery in sectors 1 and 3, but if you mess up in sector 2, even a little bit, this is where you can potentially lose the chance for a tow or a potential pass. So if you don't hit your marks in the middle portion of this racetrack, it can cost you so much time. And in qualifying, it's so crucial to stay within the rumble strips in this section as well, because of how much you have to carry in terms of speed without anyone to draft off of in queue.
Yeah, it is just you out there. You're not going to be feeling any effects of drivers around you. No draft to help pull you around the circuit. It's just having to nail your exits there. A little bit of a fishtail on the X of the Bonchmont there. That's not really where you want to be having problems, but Vassen's able to hold it well on the brakes into the bus stop lane. Clips the first curb, clips the second apex as well. progressive on the power coming out of the corner, and he'll be heading his way across the start-finish line. And it is a valid lap, and it's a more than valid lap for Magnus Vasterson, as he actually goes provisional pole position at the moment, about a tenth of a second ahead of Bertelsen. You see Mikkel Jensen in third place at the moment, but all of these times are very much provisional due to that second lap being so much faster.
Yeah, there's the chance these times can really change. Already, these drivers in practice were reaching the 2:16.5 with the help of Slipstream. Not a great time for Jankovic on the screen. 2:18.3 is his quickest time, but he'll have a chance at least one more time around to try and improve his circuit. I'm curious to see how guys like Jan Magnussen, though, do today in MBE Sports' his machines.
Yeah, Jan Magnussen, the 4 times Le Mans winner, now making an appearance here in the Danish Esport Racing Championship as one of your wildcard drivers coming into this event. We'll ride on board with him as he heads towards Rouen, one of the most brilliant sequences of racetrack that anywhere in the world, if you ask me. It's a massive roller coaster coming down here. Yes, it may be deceivingly simple, but it's just a joy to drive. But now in towards the Lafania chicane, and Jan Magnussen has not set himself a lap time just yet in this situation, and well, he certainly has plenty of time to be able to do something about that, that is for sure. But you can see now that Magnus Vastersen still at the top of the timing screens, although I'm seeing Martin Christiansen now just get himself up there with Jorgensen now getting himself in the mix. But Christiansen by 4/10 of a second at the moment, the fastest driver out on circuit. And, well, can Jan Magnussen mix it in the top 10?
Very curious. He only put in 3 practice laps, Connery, and he was the lowest driver in the total. A very bad run out of the final chicane. That's going to cost him a ton of time. A 2:20. That is off the mark, and that's, mind you, not going to count because of incidents, so he'll have to start at the back, it appears.
Yep, it does look like as Dennis Lind, that Singularity Racing car, he's heading his way through Rivage at the moment. He has not set a lap time yet either, and he is on his second of the 2 that you get here in this session, so it's all or nothing on this lap for Dennis Lind. He has plenty of time to get it in before the session is done, so that's not going to be a worry. But if he steps a foot out of line, that is going to be him starting towards the back. Mikkel Gard up into second place here. Front row starting position for him at the moment, as we are quickly drawing to an end. Drawing this qualifying session to an end.
Yeah, remember, Dennis Lind showed some great burst speed in round number 1 of the series back at the start of the campaign, where he finished inside the podium spot for the first heat. Then had a lot of fighting in the second one, where he had to deal a lot with the track conditions for the Lamborghini factory driver. So he's someone who might be one of the favorites potentially to come away with a big-time victory today, Connery, I think.
Yeah, could be. He heads his way towards the end of the lap then. On the brakes, into the bus stop. Not taking a big wide entry like we've seen some other drivers, but maybe a more conservative approach there for Dennis Lind, getting himself across the start-finish line now. It's a 2:17.610, good enough for 14th place on the starting grid here today. Frederik Jorgensen in 5th place is going to head his way across the line, and 2:17.098, which is not going to be able to improve his position. Rasmus Busk, though, a man who was very quick in practice, across the line he goes, and, well, he's only going to go fast enough for 6th place on the starting grid here today. And now 40 seconds left remaining in the session. There is Marcus Jensen. This is going to be a valid lap for him as long as he's kept it clean. The second of 2. He is in the best position of all the drivers remaining now to try and pip Christiansen to pole.
Yeah, and this is where many drivers went off track in practice, and Blanchimont very close of doing the same there along the green AstroTurf. We'll see if this does come through. The fastest times have been, it seems, on the second time around. Jensen, good run to the final chicane. Speed's looking okay-ish. No, not going to put in a total.
Yeah, incident on that lap means that Marcus Jensen will not post the valid lap time or be able to challenge Martin Christiansen for pole position. But with that, that is the end of qualifying. Our starting grid for race number 1 is set, and it looks a little bit like this. Martin Christiansen, pole position. Mikkel Gard, a front row start for him. Row 2 is Joachimsen and Jensen, and now P5 will be Frederik Jorgensen. Rasmus Busk starts in P6, Lasse Sørensen in P7, Thomas Hiresen in P8. Magnus Vassersen in 9th place and Mikkel Sondergaard in P10. And Justin, you have them down to 20.
Yes, indeed. Nicki Thiim starts 11th, Kevin Nielsen in 12th position, Des Jensen in 13th, Mikkel Jensen in 14th. Dennis Lin starts in 15th alongside Martin Bernilsen. Ollie Oyster starts in 17th spot with Deli Yankovic in 18th. Stefan Overgaard deep in the field in 19th with Frederik Vesti in 20th.
Stefan Moller in 21st. We have Alexander Hartwig, P22nd. We've got Matthias Woodsko, P23. Jacob Kritzborg, P24. Nicholas Bollingtoft in P25. Kasper Stolzer in P26. Danielson, 27th. Lilian Skov in P28. Johnny Nielsen in P29. And then the runners at the very back of the starting grid here today: Christiansen, Pedersen, Nestoraric. You got Bollingtoft, Bremer. You have Lasse back starting in 35th place. And of course the rest of your runners, you see Jan Magnussen right at the very back of your field here today. So a maximum 20 seconds before we'll see the green light for the penultimate round here of the Danish Esport Racing Championship, and it was a very short hold indeed, maybe catching a couple of drivers by surprise. Christiansen in towards La Source, turn 1. Mikkel Gard having to try to defend P2 from both Jorgensen and Jensen, but look at that, Jorgensen and Jensen are side by side on the run down in towards La Source for the first time. Jensen might just be able to get himself ahead. He does, as that top 5, top 6 are all single file, and everyone else does the same into Eau Rouge and Radion. And now onto the Kemmel Straight. There's a car going flying and flipping, and there's also a car off towards the top of Radion as well. But that is drama in the mid to rear of your field at the moment. The rest of everyone else, at least inside the top 15 cars, has got through fine.
Yeah, that's Stefan Overgaard that had some terrible luck here, along with Kevin Nielsen. Everybody else, though, was able to get quickly through and fairly cleanly already to sector number 2. Most of the field able to already get single-filed out here, Connery, knowing the difficulties of this racetrack and not wanting to be side-by-side in a lot of these sections.
I don't know about you, but I've never seen a standing start hold that short in iRacing. It felt like lights on, lights off, away we go, if I was going to do my best David Croft impression from Formula 1. But right now, all the drivers seemingly being able to deal with that situation well, apart from that incident that we saw into Radion for the first time. We see Sondergaard currently in 10th place at the moment. That's exactly where he started, so he's neither gone forwards nor backwards, but remaining in position is perhaps all you can ask for on a race start that hectic.
Yeah, at this point, if you're any of these drivers, you want to just focus on getting to rhythm, Connery, and that's what drivers like Sondergaard want to do, I think. Get themselves into a decent pace, then set themselves up to try and make passes on, say, Mikkel Jensen just up the road, because that 34, mind you, has gone up already from 14th to inside the top 10. He might want that spot back.
Yeah, he might. Onto the brakes and the bus stop for the first time towards the end of the first lap here. And, well, we're getting through just fine. It seems like everything is calm here, at least for the very front of the pack. I'm seeing an incident, though, down in towards the bus stop, but that's certainly anything other than calm at the moment. At the back there's Bollingtoft actually on his side, and he's actually able to drop that car back down onto all 4 wheels. And able to get it righted and able to continue on. I'm not sure exactly what this big cluster into the bus stop was about. I think Nicholas Bollingtoft actually got turns by Peter Danielsen, which resulted in that mess. at the end of the first lap. But you can see Thomas Giersen, you see Rasmus Busk going side by side with Jochimsen there as Giersen, with Jochimsen, and wow, look at these guys getting very, very close coming through the first sector. Giersen actually still compromised coming off the corner. Lasse Sørensen tries to look down his inside, but that door will be shut quite firmly by the driver of the 002.
Yeah, that was a little bit dicey there, diving into the bottom side, but we've seen in recent weeks, Connery, at this racetrack, people are willing to try and be aggressive at that point. Lasse Sørensen, he is being really aggressive in places you never usually see passes here. I think he's not being patient at all. He knows he's only got about 9 estimated laps to get around this circuit. He wants to try and gain track position now, along with Mikkel Jensen.
He's got a teammate behind him as well, so he doesn't really have to be feeling all that threatened from behind at the moment. But Giersen has been really good here, at least in the opening portion of the Spa. Good qualifying, and sets himself up for a good running position here in the race. But there are faster drivers behind, at least in a traditional sense, from form across the season, that would really love to try and get their way by at the moment. Sørensen, the most obvious example at the moment. They both go very wide coming out of Blanchemont. Sørensen's going to angle for the inside into the bus stop for the first apex at least, and he's able to secure the position. And Giersen not willing to really fight that out all the way, and now he has to be focused on Mikkel Jensen right behind him.
Yeah, perfectly executed that time to make the pass. Already 2 more positions gained, and look at the dive bomb and the contact. That was expected.
It's a shove and a lean out of Lasse Sørensen to continue making contact, and well, Jensen with the elbows out. Giersen actually having to pull out a line and let Mikkel Sondergaard come through there, but that was a few too many bits of contact for my liking coming out of Lasse Sørensen. You know, the bumpers really coming into full effect here as Giersen's continuing to drop back through the field here. Here comes Magnus Vastersen with the pass down the Camel Straight. Sondergaard had a look on Jensen that time into Lasse Sørensen, but Giersen's having a massive problem here over these last couple of laps.
Yeah, he is really starting to fall off all of a sudden in that 002 machine, and he's not having anyone that's going to work with him either in the slipstream. He does have a little bit of contact, you see, on that right front. I'm wondering if that just might be hurting him a little bit down the straights, and everyone's just saying, you know what? I want to gain positions, is taking advantage of him if he's leaving any opportunities. He's been letting the drivers go.
Yeah, he's been very, very passive when it comes to these quote-unquote battles that he's been in. So he's just looking to maybe just try to get to the checkered flag at this point. It depends on how severe that damage actually is. It does look pretty bad on the front right of that GT3 Ferrari, so I'm not entirely surprised that he's starting to let drivers go at the moment. But you know, we've seen some frantic racing already, and with coming up to 8 laps to go, there's certainly no reason why we can't see more by the time this race is done, especially due to the fact that the draft is keeping these cars at least relatively close together at the moment. It is a leading pair of Christensen and Gard at the moment, though, and they have a good gap over P3. There's Frederik Vesti, though. That's a Formula 3 driver, heading his way through towards the end of the lap at the moment. Still quite a ways off the gaggle of cars ahead of him, but if you can make good progress here and log a good couple of laps, then he'll be in the mix. And I have to say, he's probably in the mix already with a good run through the bus stop.
Yeah, he's in a good position to at least gain a few more spots in the next few laps for the 2019 Formula Region European Champion. But I think part of why it took so long for a driver such as him to get in this position, remember, was what happened in the mid-pack with a couple of the drivers in lap number 1. That held up some of the drivers. What happened in the final chicane held up more drivers. That in turn really spread out the field much more than we normally would see here at this racetrack. In fact, that second incident just drawn a black flag for Peter Danielson. Let's take a look at the first, though.
Yeah, you can see this is the start of the race in towards Lasse Sørensen. You're riding on board with Bollingtoft at the moment, and Lasse Sørensen, you know, a tricky turn 1 at the best of times, but when you have around about 36 GT3s heading down into there, it does get a little bit more complicated. And well, especially the next section into Eau Rouge, because you simply cannot really justify that much going too wide through there, and you can just see how much of a sketchy situation it causes. You see a car going off massively at the top of the hill, and there's a car spun around as well. And here's all the shuffling, all the jostling for position in on the brakes in towards Lecombe. We almost saw briefly 3 wide there, but we're going to look at the instant coming through Rouge and Radion, and that's the driver actually cutting the top of Radion there, and well, he's able to get through just fine. It's just at least 2 cars there at the top of the hill that had major problems. Maybe this will shine a light on exactly what happened. Stefanova got, whoa, that was a car out hard into the tire barriers. Stefanova got hard into the concrete wall, but who was that having a bit of a fun time with the tires?
That was Nielsen. That was Kevin Nielsen, I believe, that came across the racetrack in the 856. You can see right here, just his car went straight into the tires, into the middle of the racetrack.
That's a scary instant. Luckily, we're in the sim here, and there's no chance for the driver to get injured unless you have a direct drive wheel and it, sort of damages your wrist, and that can happen, which is why those things have an emergency stop button. But this, bang! That would have been a scary instant in real life.
Yeah, what happened there was why you seen it shuffle so hard to the left in the tire barriers. Ended up having a bit of oversteer in the first part of that section, hitting the rumble strips. And he actually was turning that wheel to the left, Connor. He just double-checked it on my end, where he snapped it too hard, I think overcorrected. And in turn, it overcorrected at full speed into the tires, into the track.
Yeah, we have a look at back to live pictures though. And Joachimsen trying to defend from Sørensen at the moment. The battle for P6 out there on track. Joachimsen 2:17.479 last time around. Sørensen a 2:17.269. So that's a good 0.2 of a second that Sørensen's been able to shrink that gap by compared to the last lap. So he looks to try and make some forward progress here. He's exactly where he started, in that 7th place. But now maybe the time where he's looking to try and get these moves done, especially if he feels like the top 5 is getting away from him a bit too much.
Remember, these are technically teammates in real life, mind you, at DF1 Racing, so that's definitely going to make this battle a little bit more fun for these two, I think, Connery.
Yeah, there's nothing like a little bit of friendly rivalry, friendly banter. Why not? Let's just get this going. It's the final round of the season. It's time for a little bit of fun, perhaps, but 14 minutes left remaining, 6 laps to go next time these guys come across the start-finish line. Keeping a close eye on that race lead battle, because Christensen and Gard as a pair haven't really split up all that much. So they've just been working as a pair to try and gap the rest of the field, and they're doing so quite admirably at the moment by about a 10th or 2 a lap. But so they're looking pretty secure for the race lead at the moment, but everything else behind, the battle for the final podium position, this battle for P number 6, looking a lot closer than what is the gap between those leading pair and the rest of the field at the moment.
Yeah, it's really spread out, to be quite frank. Already near 6 seconds, the gap between these two drivers and the leader, but already Jensen in 8th position. That is Mikkel Jensen +6, one of the biggest movers in this entire field. With how good of a first lap he had, the top 2 of Christensen and Gart, though, they have stayed where they have been all race. They've absolutely blistered the rest of the field in pace by 0.3 a lap to gain spots.
Oh, look at the defense, though, into the comb. That's Jensen and Sondergaard. They make contact coming into Lecombe. That's Sondergaard and Jensen having problems. Jensen off into the escape road, and he's going to take a big old slowdown penalty by doing that, and he will get that car slowed down. Will give up the position. No, he won't give up the position to Sondergaard. They're still going to duel it out, coming through Ravage. They almost trade paint, coming through the middle of the apex. What a weird situation between these two at the moment. Jensen somehow able to hold on. There's a car spinning though in the background. Hirsten, his day goes from bad to worse as he has to wait on the exit of No Name Corman to let those cars through. But what happened here on the way in towards Lecombe? Lecombe, because Sondergaard seemed to have gone for a gap that was closing, massive amounts of contact between the two, and then with Jensen trying to serve the slowdown penalty, he just about got it served, and it was immediately into another battle.
Yeah, that was absolute craziness, but Hirson, I think it was the case where he was trying to brake to give space to the two cars in front, braked a little bit earlier than this car expected. That is the Van Lecombe. That's Matthias Jensen, I should rather say, right behind him, who ends up bumping him and just not expecting him to hit the brakes as hard.
Yeah, that's the, being predictable is the name of the game when you're trying to avoid incidents like that. But look at this, they're still going at it, mind you, these guys. You see Jensen and Sondergaard just getting very close once again. There's Matthias Jensen on the back of this, so Sondergaard in the Jensen sandwich, but as I've mentioned before on broadcast, usually you name a sandwich by the filling and not what's on the outside. So really, this is a Sondergaard sandwich.
I guess that's a good way to put it.
There we go, it's a pet peeve.
Yes, but either way, it's an interesting battle to say the least. I'm curious though if Mikkel Jensen is going to be able to close up the gap to Vassesen, since Magnus Vassesen doesn't have any slipstream. The thing is though, these cars are already about 2 miles an hour slower in the same sections as the 064 right now, even with the slipstream. That's how much of a difference it is, and it doesn't help when Jensen is defending as hard as he has been.
Yeah, Sondergaard seemingly able to carry so much more speed through Lecombe. Loses it a bit though, coming through Malmedy, hard on the brakes, into Ravage. Just he's trying to find the line on the outside, not quite going to be able to make that one work, but things getting a bit congested here for positions just inside of the top 10. You're running on board with Mikkel Jensen, looking back at Mikkel Sondergaard, as the two Mikkels maybe looking to try to duel it out once again here, but maybe not for now. Meanwhile, back towards the race lead though, because Martin Christiansen, Mikkel Gard, they've been the pair that rule the ball at the moment. Christiansen with an error though through Stavlo 1, and now into curve Paul Frere. Gard almost basically taps his rear bumper, telling him to get a move on. Coming through there, now he sits inside the slipstream on the way into Blanchimont, but is Gard going to go for the move? Does he value the track position here? He looks to the inside through Blanchimont, and Christiansen lets him through. Gard with a big slide through the exit of the corner. He goes to the race lead.
And that was a pass coming this entire lap. They nearly made contact trying to make that same move in Pujon. This time Mikkel Gard able to get into a better spot to make the move. Now is the question of will he be able to hold on? Remember though, that now it's going to be Christiansen who will have the slipstream to try and get a run back.
Yep, it will. That's what I meant by is Gard valuing the track position here? Is he more comfortable in his defense rather than his offense to finish off this race, because it's so easy to try and get these draft passes done at Spa, and Mikkel Gard now is the driver that has to put up the defense. But Christiansen with a good run coming through Eau Rouge and Radion. You can just see how much that benefits him down the Kemmel Straight, but I think Gard has just been able to pull out enough of a gap to mean that the move is not on into Lecombe. And Christiansen has to be, just has to stay around about this position for another couple of laps before maybe looking for that run through Eau Rouge and Radion again to be able to make things happen into Lecombe. But you have to remember though, even if you do get the move done on the last lap into Lecombe, there are still so many other threats around this racetrack, especially into the bus stop of the final time.
Yeah, there's been so many sends here at this racetrack we have seen over time broadcasting where it's led to major incidents. Right now, I think if you're Christiansen, it's the matter of, as you said, keep the slipstream, because if you're in that position, he might have one or two chances, Connery, to make a pass back. I think that's why Mikkel Gard might have been confident to say, okay, I want to make the pass now since I got the momentum, and felt more confident, as you said, to play defense.
Yeah, that might just be a plan. On board with Christiansen at the moment. This is the portion of the racetrack where he made an error that made that race lead pass work for Mikkel Gard, and Christiansen might just be struggling for a little bit of pace towards the back end of the race at the moment, because Gard has been able to gap him a bit, but Gard goes very wide coming through Blanchimont, and you have to be careful with that because the race stewards are looking at these track limit infringements, and if Gard's doing that a bit too much, then he might draw the ire of the penalty. Well, might draw a penalty.
Remember, we've seen that pop up the whole entire incident limit too, Connery, in a couple rounds. Imola comes to mind, for example.
Yeah,
we've seen so much craziness.
well.
Yeah, exactly. In both of those races. So that's definitely got to be kept in mind here by making sure you don't abuse the track limits at this point. Miguel Gard's in a decent spot with an estimated about 3 laps to go, with the top 2 pulling away for the rest of the top 5, but he needs to make sure he doesn't make any mistakes.
Yeah, that is the aim of the game at the moment. He'll be safe in towards Lacombe as you see the rest of the field head their way down the old pit straight into Eau Rouge and Radion. And now on board with the Prologue React Esports car of Mikkel Gard, looking back to that Sim Performance car, I believe. And well, this is going to be it. This is going to be the battle now coming towards the end of the race. That is going to have so much intrigue because Christensen over the last 2 laps or so hasn't really instilled me with a lot of confidence, but the start of this lap is looking a bit better from him, so maybe this is something he can build off of now coming into the final 2 laps of the race.
And remember here too, Connery, Martin Christensen, one of the drivers who were involved in that tight battle for the 2nd position in the point standings. If he can get himself the top spot, that will be a big time advantage over Marcus Jensen. Compare that to Jensen, he's stuck in traffic in 4th, and drivers like Dennis Lind, who had similar good performances at the start of the season when he was a part of the rounds, he's been stuck in 13th and has had to dodge multiple trouble points, mind you, in this race today.
Yeah, so he's seen a lot of action. I'm seeing Gard again abuse the track limits a bit coming through the exit of Stavolo 2 that time around. So he does have to be careful here because he might be picking up a couple too many instant points, and you've already mentioned that he struggled with it before in rounds previous, especially at Imola. We're riding on board with Lind at the moment in that Singularity Racing car in P13 at the moment. He's gained 2 positions from where he started, so it's been a positive race 1 for Lind here, and like you said, he's been having to avoid everything at the moment. Matthias Jensen, though, that is going to be black flag for that contact with Sondergaard, I believe it was,
yes,
into Lacombe.
Well, in that battle that was going on between Miguel Jensen and Sondergaard, and ended up shuffling around the driver who was in front in that situation. So that's the price you pay, though, for the bump and run, essentially, that collected a couple drivers in the process. So now it's the focus for these drivers to complete the next 4 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, so 2 laps to go by my calculations. Mid-pack ending their way through Eau Rouge and Radion. There is Andreas Jochimsen and Lasse Sørensen. They will be the battle for P6 out there on track as Sørensen carries some good momentum coming through the apexes on that first sector. There's a bit of a scrap ahead of them, though. This is for P3 as Jorgensen's actually got pushed wide there coming through Rivage, and now has to fight with Rasmus Busk. Busk having to hold it around the outside, can't do so. But that was a big old stack up amongst the 3 of them for that final podium position into Rivage.
Yeah, and that was an important move for Jensen just in front of them to do, though, because remember, he needs as many points as he can to be able to keep within range for race number 2 today. So that was important for the 065 to get away from these 2 to try and secure a podium position in this battle and hope that Rasmus Busk and the Northside Racing Machine continues to scrap.
Yeah, has to be hoping. Well, this is your closest battle out there on circuit at the moment. 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second between Busk and Jorgensen at the moment. And they are coming towards the start of the final lap of this race 1 at Spa-Francorchamps. Mikkel Gard is heading his way into the bus stop right now, and these guys, you know, for all intents and purposes, aren't really that far behind. So if there's some altercation that happens near the front, then it's going to be positions gained But now it's going to be the start of the final lap. Head the way it through. That's going to be it officially. And into last source, and Christiansen has to be hoping for a monster run coming through Rouge and Radeon, because I don't think he's close enough to be able to do this all on his own, and has to maybe rely on a mistake from Gard coming through that section. And well, Gard took a lot of apex though on that right-hand curb coming up the hill. It does give a big momentum advantage to Christiansen, but it's simply not going to be enough to have a move in towards the Lecombe chicane. But look at this, we're going to see 3 wide into Eau Rouge. No, it's just the 2. Nicki Thiim trying to get his way through. That is Dennis Lind involved in that as well. And Vesti, it's all 3 of the pro drivers in the real world just scrapping it out here on the final lap of the race for positions just outside of your top 10. Here comes Bertelsson. He's picked up 2 positions. He's going to go for the 3rd into Lecombe, but can't manage it around his teammate as Vesti in that the Formula 3 driver leads that train around at the moment. But that was a big old cluster coming through Eau Rouge.
I think Nicki Thiim knew that was craziness and just backed out of all of it. May have had a little bit of trouble with his race car. This continues to get very tight between the real-world drivers. The leaders, mind you, have already spread apart by 0.4 of a second. This is one of the closest battles left on the track.
Yeah, that battle for P3 has kind of fizzled out at this stage. It means that well, this battle for positions outside the top 10, maybe one between Mikkel Jensen and Mikkel Sondergaard for P number 9 and 10, might just be a thing coming towards the very dying moments of this race. 20 seconds left remaining in this one. Time will expire just before Mikkel Gard heads his way through the bus stop. So that's going to be the situation there. Although it's going to be close. I'm just going to keep close eye on this one. Gard going very wide again. He has to be so careful. Otherwise, he's going to be risking a penalty. But into the bus stop for the final time for Mikkel Gard. He'll try to find the exit, get the traction down, come across the line to win the first race at Spa-Francorchamps in the Danish Esports Racing Championship. Further behind, though, it seems to have all calmed down a bit, or not, says Lasse back. He's just come from nowhere. He is doing his last to first challenge. Nicki Thiim trying to defend things through the final corner. Dennis Lind pushes back wide, and I think Lind might have just got disqualified a couple of meters before the line.
Yes, indeed. It looks like he's reached the incident limit because of the door-to-door contact. He's not going to be happy after that one, because a top 15 run has just flown right out the window.
Yeah, that has been an absolutely crazy race at Spa. That is just insane what we've just seen up and down the field. Mikkel Gard coming away with the race win by 0.7 of a second. There was a close run thing between him and Martin Christiansen, as Christiansen scores decent points in his battle to remain in second place in the point standings. Marcus Jensen making sure he doesn't gain too much of an advantage though, as he holds that final place on the podium. Fredrik Jorgensen in P4 and Rasmus Busk in P5. Andreas Joachimsen P6, Lasse Sørensen in P7, Magnus Rasmussen P8, Mikkel Jensen P9, and Mikkel Sondergaard will round out your top 10. Justin, you have down to 20 again.
Yes, indeed. Dali Yankovic finished in 11th spot with Vesti in 12th position. Martin Bertelsen quietly moved himself to 13th position, while Nicki Thiim, in the midst of a bumping and banging final lap, came home in 14th. Stefan Muller came home in 15th, with Lasse back going from 35th to 16th in his last to first challenge. We'll see how the last to first challenge results in race number 2. Oyster finished in 17th, with Hartvig in 18th, Wichto in 19th, and Jakob Petersen rounded out the top 20.
P21 will go to Nicola Bollingtoft. We have Ronnie Bremer in P22. Matthias Jensen P23 after serving a penalty during the race. You got Daniel Nestavaric in P24, Johnny Nielsen P25, Matthias Christiansen in 26th. And we have, of course, another Ronnie Bremer. That's actually the driver of Jan Magnussen. That is actually on that account at the moment. Peter Danielson, P28, Lynn Scott, P29, Stefano got round out the top 30, and the rest of them will be one lap or more down. But Justin, what a crazy race one, and Now, for the final race of the entire season, it looks like we have a pretty decent stage, at least as far as that race 1 is concerned.
Yeah, that was absolute madness in the mid-pack especially, and there's a chance we see a similar result in race number 2. There was some absolute intensity among some of these competitors, and I think that's going to carry over, and knowing some of the rivalries that built up in race number 1, that might also factor in for what we see in just a few minutes.
It might play a big part in the battles that we'll get to see in just a couple of moments' time. But before that, we'll have another qualifying session to start to set the grid for the final race of the season. Join us for that in just a couple of moments' time. I'm Corey Maddock. That's Justin Prince. We'll see you after this.
Vinderen af Danish Esport Racing Championship får chancen for at komme ud og køre i en ægte racerbil på Jyllandsringen. Men det er altså ikke hvilken som helst racerbil. Det er nemlig en Ferrari 488 Challenge-bil. Går du med drømme om at komme ud og prøve en ægte racerbil, så gå ind på esport-racing.eu og tilmeld dig DERC.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the season finale of the Danish Esport Racing Championship. I am Conrad Maddock. I'm joined by Justin Prince, as I have been throughout the entirety of the season. And now we are just one race away from calling it done. We had a brilliant race number 1 here at Spa, and it looks like that's going to be the same for race number 2. But before we get to that, we do have another qualifying session to be concerned about. The sun is setting here in the Belgian hills, and well, it's going to be a quite appropriate climax to the season.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting final heat race of the season. The track conditions much cooler here, Connery, compared to race number 1. And as we've seen in some of these rounds, a lot of drivers, yes, their skills transfer because of track knowledge, but a lot of it also comes down to having knowledge of knowing how to handle the car in specific weather conditions. Might see a lot of competitors, such as Dennis Lin, for example, I think, move up through the field compared to a hotter track condition in race 1.
Yeah, the track conditions, at least at the moment, is going to be a lot more forgiving. So you'll see a lot less sliding around. Those tires able to last the entire race just a little bit better. They are able to quite comfortably regardless, but these conditions just make things that little bit more comfortable, and comfort in these sorts of races is a big factor.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, you have to think about this too at this point, where Sometimes confidence leads to overconfidence, which leads to mistakes. You definitely do not want to make some mistakes, especially in the first lap when you're all bunched together with how big the field is today with the 37 cars. We didn't see major mistakes in most of the race in race number 1. I think race number 2, though, might have some different circumstances with the cooler temperatures, meaning much more throttle time for a lot of these competitors in deeper braking zones for the best of the best.
Yeah, that can all factor in. Peter Danielsen, he had a good couple of problems in race number 1, and he's one of those drivers that is maybe looking to recover things when it comes to the second race here today. Stefan Overgaard having a problem coming through Eau Rouge and Radio for the first time. In race 1, he is on a similar trajectory to try and be able to recover things in race number 2. So there are a good couple of drivers looking to have those recovery drives. They've struggled with race number 1. Thankfully for them, this is basically a clean slate at this point. No reverse grid, but you do get to re-qualify, and sometimes, it's just another roll of the dice to see if you get yourself in the right set of circumstances on lap 1 and 2.
Yeah, exactly, and that was very crucial with what we've seen in the first race when you think back, because of how things shaped out early, there were really quickly small packs of cars. You usually don't see that until at least 30 minutes into a normal race in some of the major events we see at Circuit Spa-Francorchamps. So all the battling spread things out here. I'm curious to see what Rasmus Busk can do here in this race now, though, because he showed some good fight in race number 1. We've seen him before in some events show some good speed. He's shown good speed in practice already. Number 1 on the board, the only driver of the 216 so far.
He did this in practice 1 as well, so I'm starting to worry that Rasmus Busk, given a long practice session like this, can put those very fast laps down, but when push comes to shove, he might struggle. We'll have to see if that trend does continue into qualifying, as he could definitely fight it out for the race lead here if he's positioned in the right way. If he gets a solid qualifying, if he keeps out of trouble on the first lap, he might be able to give Christensen and Gard a run for their money. Speaking of, Gard actually going to the top of the timing screens at the moment in practice by only 15 one-thousandths of a second.
Yes, absolutely. And talking about the discussion point with Miguel Gard and the speed he showed, I think he might be someone who, if he qualifies well again here, Connery, might be able to potentially even break away from the toe, because as soon as he got in front of Christensen just struggled to keep up with him in sector number 2, and that in turn made it hard for Christensen to slipstream back up to him. So I think Gard knows that he's got some great speed on this racetrack, some good comfortability. He's someone that I think has the chance to try and go for the double victory today, something Lasse Back did multiple times this season. Yeah,
and it's something that, like I said, Lasse Back was able to do, and it nets him a championship at the end of the day, so it's always positive if you're able to get those big results onto the board. Unfortunately, it comes a bit too late in the season for Mikael Gard to be able to carry any momentum off the back of it, but a good finish to the season for Gard here will make up for things somewhat. He had a bit of a struggle coming through the middle of the season that meant that he isn't really in with a shout in terms of a fight in the point standings for the very front positions. But one driver that is, Marcus Jensen, you can see him heading his way through at the moment, and still close as ever in his battle with Christensen and Jorgensen, and they all finished one position apart from each other in that last race.
Yeah, that was a crazy battle, though, for Jensen, because he had multiple times in that Team Redline machine. He was shuffled out from 3rd to 4th, sometimes even to 5th position. He knew he needed to get the best result possible. He knew he wasn't in the top 2 draft. So what he was able to do to be able to go for the dive, take away some of the spots, and get 3rd position, and force Forfan back to fight instead, to the point where they were reeled in by the Wheel and Hero teammates. that was a smart move, I think, in his hand, and it was a necessary move to have him have any chance of moving up to second by the end of this series season.
Goes to fourth in practice, but you know the point situation does get a little bit more complicated when you consider that there are drop weeks you have to think about, so we won't be entirely sure what the state of play of things actually is until a period after the race ends. So there will be a little bit of uncertainty there. Is that Dennis Lind almost going for an awkward rejoin there with Mikkel Jensen coming? That would have been a bit embarrassing for the broadcast, all things considered. But 35 seconds left remaining in practice at the moment. Busk, yeah, again saying another very competitive lap time, and for him, I'd love to see him mix it in with the front and give it make it a 3-car battle between himself, Gard, and Christensen. That would be absolutely stellar to see.
Yeah, I think it's going to be absolutely stellar, and we've seen some stellar battling with the rear-wheel drivers. There's a chance, I think, that if they play their cards right, they might be able to take that stellar battling and move up to take it to the top 10. It might decide who gets in the top 10 by the end of this, but you have to be able to qualify well to be in that position here, Connery. After practice, some good speeds in the 2:16.9s to around the 2:17.7s in the top 10.
That is practice done. Mikkel Jensen top of the standings with Rasmus Busk and Martin Christensen filing in behind. And, soon we will get ourselves the qualifying session started. In fact, it already is. So drivers getting themselves out there for their outlaps. You see Alexander Lauritsen making an appearance in this race as well. And he's actually able to grab the 8th fastest time in practice. We haven't seen him for a while, and it looks like he's decided to join the party for the very final race.
Yes, he unfortunately missed race number 1, and he's someone that's shown great speed throughout this season, Lauritsen, when he's been on the racetrack. So he might make things very interesting. He's already one of our first qualifiers on the racetrack. Logitech G Altus eSport machine. I think he might be someone who can really potentially break up the flow of what we've seen inside the top 5 throughout the first race.
Yeah, as if that sort of battle for the final podium position wasn't frantic enough. Now Lauritsen, given a good qualifying here, might be able to get himself involved in that, which will just add another dimension to the entire battle. As well, this is an outlap, so that big old wide moment coming through no-name corner is not really going to matter all that much. It's just a case of just trying to get the tires up to speed here for Lauritsen. He's not doing a lot of weaving though, which is what a lot of the other drivers are deciding to do. Instead, Lauritsen, he seems like he's in a bit of a rush and he wants to actually get his lap started.
Yeah, I think so. Just going as hard as he can. Remember, he came in with only 1 lap of practice, Connery, in this session. 1 for race number 2. Not a lot of time to prep. So this is something where he might be using this as his practice time to get ready for race number 2 even. See how good as he can go in qualifying.
Yeah, and now hard onto the brakes into the bus stop. There we go. Lauritsen down into there for the Altus eSports machine. A big wide arc being taken for that final apex as well, just to carry as much speed possible down the pit straight. It'll only gain you about half a tenth to a tenth of a second, but that all matters when it comes to a qualifying lap. Into La Source then, as close to that inside wall as you dare, and he can find the exit as well. You've got to be careful with the track limits coming through the exit of La Source there. Now try and get your sights set for Oruj and Radion to take a big amount of curve on that first one. Do not touch that right hand curve though, because that will spell your end if you take a little bit too much out of it. But Lauritsen well aware of that fact as he now heads down to Camel's Bay.
Yeah, right now looking pretty decent, but right now remember, the pace is going to be important for these drivers in this section right here. Many competitors have fallen behind in battles in race conditions in this part of the track today. You don't want to fall behind on your delta time in this sector. 38.267 for sector number 1 was pretty decent. sector number 2 has to be pretty solid for him to be up in the field.
Yeah, he has to absolutely nail that portion of the circuit. Now looking to find the entry into Puan. I've already said how much of a fan of this corner I am, and Sørensen able to take the double apex left-hander. Absolutely no problems at all. Doesn't tend to be a problem in these cars, if I'm being realistic. Now onto the brakes into Lafanya. A bit unstable there on entry. Just see he just wiggled the steering wheel a little bit, but able to keep everything under control into the first Stavolo, taking as much entry curve as possible, take as much of the exit curve as possible as well, but keeping in mind the track limit. Same through Stavolo 2 as well, but it seems like Sørensen all okay so far on this lap. This is only his first flying lap here, so you will get another opportunity after this one to set a fast time, and usually in these cars with the tyres coming up to temperature, that second lap is the faster one. But Sørensen now onto the brakes into the bus stop, and it's basically going to be a benchmark time, a baseline for him to build off of for his second lap. What's it going to be as he hits the power coming across the start finish line? And there we go, a 2:17.6, and it actually, there we go, 2 provisional pole position. It took a bit of time, but eventually it comes through, and that's a decent lap time there for Sørensen. He did go about 0.3 of a second faster on his practice lap, but remember, those are in the better circumstances in terms of the tire temperature.
Yes, absolutely. So good amount of time there, but already he's getting bumped down the board, and quickly, by a lot of the competitors who are in race number 1 already. Mikkel Jensen, much better qualifying time compared to his first time. Lasse Sørensen, much better qualifying compared to race 1. Nicki Thiim, much better qualifying compared to race 1. You see the theme here, Connery? Cars and drivers are more comfortable with the cooler track and going up the field and quickly.
Yeah, and Gard now, he is, well, was the winner of race 1, looking to go back-to-back here in the final round of the season. Yet to set himself a qualifying time, but he will do so in just a couple of moments' time. And where is he going to be on his first lap? He takes that big wide arc through the second apex here, so loses a bit of time on this lap to be able to potentially gain on the second lap. Across the line he goes, and he actually does not set himself a qualifying time on that first lap. So God, again, this is sort of a risky situation at the moment, because he's now having to rely on this second lap being, for one, valid to even get anywhere up the grid.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge for this race right now, because as we've seen, you get held up by one incident, you're likely going to maybe finish top half of the field at the very best. So he needs that second lap to be official. Same thing for Rasmus Busk. He doesn't have as much time compared. Let's see what the time's going to be across the stripe. 2:17.1, and it does count. 2:17.214 is the official total, 4th best.
4th best in the session, and now we'll have about 3 minutes left to go. Mikkel Gard on his second of 2 flying laps. His first one was not valid. Martin Christiansen, provisional pole position at the moment. God, that's it. Oh, he's binned it. He's slow now. Mikkel Gard, he won't be starting anywhere near the front of the field. In fact, he might even start final row.
And I think he's realizing that in the cockpit right now. That's why he's slowing down so much, probably showing a lot of frustration, stopping this car. He might just maybe have time for a lap if he's lucky, but not so much now with the way he's going. He's not going to be able to get a 3rd attempt in to even recover. This is going to be tough for him.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Jorgensen, he's yet to set a lap time as well. So time's starting to run out for these drivers that haven't set lap times. Jorgensen on his last chance at the moment. Through Rouge and Radion, just fine, as close to that right-hand side, or driver's right-hand side as possible coming through the kink, as he is basically going to be the last driver to come across the start-finish line to set a qualifying lap here, it seems. So there's a lot of weight on his shoulders at the moment for a driver that was fighting in and amongst those positions trying to get into the top 3. It's certainly a big responsibility now, and it looks like he's been okay over this lap, but he's going to be all alone out there on circuit now, not just because it's solo qualifying, but because everyone else is done.
Yeah, just about everybody else is coming. Only 2 other cars in total are on the circuit for comparison's sake, but they are looking like they are either completing their laps or not going to have the best of laps so far. So curious what Jorgensen does here for this, but want to give a quick shout out here, Connery, because currently on television is on TV2 Lorry. Discussions on interviews underway, in fact, with the promoter for the Danish Esport Racing Championship, DERC Wallman. Lasse Sørensen also involved in interviews at the moment or in Danish television, so shout out to them and their TV coverage going on at the moment.
Yeah, it's brilliant to see esports and sim racing coming to the forefront. Of course, given the situation the world's going through at the moment, we will just take what we can get in this situation. But Jorgensen, he'll take what he can get here in qualifying as well. Into the final sector he goes. It's all him against the track. He is the only driver left out there. He took a bit of curb coming through that second apex. Hopefully he hasn't lost too much time. Comes across the line, goes 14th on the starting grid. That's going to require a lot of work in the race to get back up to where he finished last time. Yeah,
it's still a decent qualifying attempt. It could have been much worse, but he's going to be in the heart of the field here, Connery, when it gets rolling to the green.
He will be in the thick of it, but this is your starting grid for the final round of the Danish Esports Racing Championship. Martin Christiansen pole position. Rasmus Busk will also be on that front row. Mikkel Jensen and Marcus Jensen will make an all Jensen row number 2. Nicki Thiim, though, getting himself a top 5 here in qualifying. Kevin Nielsen in P6, Andreas Joachimsen in P7, Lasse Sørensen in P8, Loritzen in 9th, Sondergaard in 10th, and well, you've got the rest.
Thomas Harrison 11th, Kasper Solze also in 12th position, Martin Bertelsen 13th, Fredrik Jorgensen in 14th, Wutschko in 15th, Matthias Jensen in 16th, Angus Vastesen in 17th, Moyester in 18th, Hartvig in 19th, Dali Yankovic rounds out the top 20 starting positions. Couple noteworthy drivers deep in the field here, though. Dennis Lind starting 22nd, Johnny Nielsen all the way back in the 25th position on the pylon. Many others, such as Stefan Overgaard in 28th position. Also keep an eye on the drivers in the last few tabs, because Lasse back and Mikael Gard will have to come all the way back from 34th and 35th position, Connery.
Yeah, so look at those drivers, back and Gard, to scythe their way through the field. I'm seeing Frederik Vesti further back as well. So he was getting himself in towards the top 10 at the end of race number 1. So a lot of drivers out of position here for the final race of the Danish Esports Racing Championship. It gets underway at Spa-Francorchamps, and it's a good start for P number 3, Mikkel Jensen. Grabs P2 on the way down in towards La Source. Can he keep it though on the inside? That's the question. Yes, he can. A big old stack up. We'll see 3 wide in the mid-pack coming through the first corner for the first time in race 2. But it looks like everyone's been able to keep things together. Will they go single file in towards Eau Rouge and Radion? You should, but that is not sometimes advice that's taken, as there's a car off, and that's a car spun towards the inside, towards pit exit there. Didn't quite catch who exactly that was, but look at this. This is for the race lead now. Oh my word, Jensen, the big dummy, in towards Lacombe. He shoves Christiansen out. Christiansen into the dirt, into the gravel, into the tyre barriers as well. Marcus Jensen now tries to challenge for the race lead on the way down in towards Rivage, and Jensen trying to defend the insides. There's more door banging. Jensen's off now. Marcus Jensen off into the gravel as the shoulders are out. They're barging each other for position.
And that's going to have huge points ramifications.
Oh, big old slide, and now Rasmus Busk leads this race.
This is absolute madness on the last lap. My goodness. Rasmus Busk has been the cleanest driver out of all of them, I'd have to say. Everybody else just banging their doors like it's a stock car race. My goodness, By the way, in all of this, Søndergaard's charges way from 10th to 6th because of all the craziness.
Yeah, that's incredible. Gains 4 positions here on the start. Jorgensen's up 6 positions from where he started in this one. So there have been some massive gainers out of this. Christiansen's been cycled all the way back into 5th place at the moment. Marcus Jensen all the way down in 17th. That's how far he has fallen in this race. And this battle for the race lead may not be done here for the first lap, because Mikkel Jensen now looks to try to lock onto the back of Rasmus Busk into the final sector, and he's going to go for the move, sending it this early. Surely not, as they'll go side by side through the bus stop. Jensen with the big line, wide line, trying to get the cup back, trying to get the momentum off the corner. He's now going to bump draft his competitor on the way down in towards Lasse Sørensen. Jensen, he's found the line on the inside, door left open by Busk. There's more leaning and door barging and trading paint on the way through Lasse Sørensen, and now Rasmus Busk and Nicki Thiim has come from absolutely nowhere to make it side by side into Eau Rouge, into Radion. Nicki Thiim, he's got the position and forces the other driver to take a slowdown.
Yeah, the 355 Rasmus Busk, that is a 2-second slowdown. If you go off the track in that sector, that's causing carnage. But already, the fight for second's on. Here comes Jorgensen all of a sudden, and Nicki Thiim trying to get the squeeze there, gave it to him at the last second.
This is crazy. This is absolutely insane. It has given a bit of space for Mikkel Jensen to work with in P1 though. But this is just crazy, crazy stuff. We've seen our fair share of crazy races so far this season. Look at that from Thiim. He's just basically pushing Jorgensen all the way through at Rivage. And now maybe, just maybe, we'll get to catch a breath at some point. But with these guys all stacked up together in this train at the moment, I don't think we'll be able to.
Yeah, this is absolute calamity, mind you, in all of this. You may have noticed some of the drivers that got shuffled. You mentioned it already, Marcus Jensen. Kevin Nielsen was also one of the drivers who got shuffled all the way back to 31st position with the craziness on lap number 1 with some bumps and runs into the sand, for example, in Lacombe. So it's been just that type of race so far. I expected this to be a bit crazy in race 2. This is crazier than I thought it would be.
Yeah, oh, there's a car off at the back there, and it looks like an RS competition car. It's number 34. It's not Lasse Vesti, but it's Vesti. He's had a problem there coming up towards La Fagne in this instance, but yeah, look at this. This is an absolute train for those final couple of podium positions at the moment. Lauritsen's involved in this as well, but no big looks this time into the bus stop. But at this point, I'm not going to be surprised by anything.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be too surprised at anything either. We've seen some of the more aggressive moves I think we've ever seen here at Spa in just a couple laps. It's just been that type of race in trouble.
Nicki Thiim has spun it. Our Lasse Sørensen, he has to wait for so long to let everyone by, and now this battle's continuing as well. Oh no, that's gone so wrong for Nicki Thiim as he has to take the tow back to pit lane. And now Lauritsen trying to hold back the train behind him. He did hit the inside wall there, did Nicki Thiim. It wasn't just a simple spin, and Søndergaard's hoping this is a simple pass around the outside of Lauritsen, but not quite going to happen. Looking for the cutback, can't quite get it. There's Jorgensen now looking to get involved. Side by side between Stolzer and Hirsen in the background through Malmedy as this race just keeps on going and going and going, and Hirsen's around, so is Stolzer.
And that was door-to-door contact coming out of Lacombe in turn 9, and this is causing craziness in the second group of race cars. My goodness, you can see right here, there was a bit of bumping and shoving. Then both of them try to go for the same space, neither backed off, and around they go. Kasper Soltz, I think, was the man who was expecting more so of the two of them for the inside car to back off and concede the position.
Yeah, here we'll go. There's the replay of the incident with Nicki Thiim. A bit too shallow into the corner, bang! Spun around. I think Christiansen got or rather Søndergaard, I believe, got a bit of that as well, as Thiim was spinning in the middle of the circuit. It looks like Søndergaard's car is okay though in terms of damage to the front end, But wow, this is just absolute craziness. Mikkel Jensen holds 0.8 of a second advantage at the front of the field at the moment. Joachimsen in second place at the moment from P7 on the starting grid. The entirety of the top 5 at the moment did not, in fact, start inside the top 5, apart from Jensen.
That is absolute craziness here at this point. But the race is starting to similarly now take similar patterns now. Top 2 break away, third on back, get to scrap. But one thing to note with the driver that's in second position just in front of these competitors in Joachimsen, there's a chance here, Connery, he can steal second place in the championship overall standings. He came into today 4th, coming in provisionally with drop weeks factored in about 105 points back, and now he's got a chance to move up to second while these cars fight and move up positions.
Yeah, so things just keep getting more and more complicated. This is solidly mid-pack at the moment with Lasse back though. He's up 18 spots already in his last to first challenge, and well, it's been helped by the very many incidents that we've had. We'll see side by side Sørensen trying to get through, and meanwhile there's contact further back. Lind out into the gravel and into the tire barriers. Lasse Sørensen trying to follow Rasmus Busk through towards Ravage at the moment. There's Lind having his problems, having to wait for the entire train of traffic to head its way through, and he decides to give up. He just decides to take the tow back to pit lane. It was contact there coming through the Lacombe chicane, and Lind's not wanting to really wait around.
Mathias Jensen is not going to be too popular after this race. This is another instance of contact amongst drivers, and this time just a little bit of contact on the squeeze.
Yeah, just a bit too much, and sometimes that contact with the wheel arch is all you need to send these cars spinning. As Sondergaard in P number 4 at the moment, he's been given a stop and go penalty, so that'll shake things up a little bit more inside your top 5, as if it can't be shaken up anymore. So that's the situation there. He's going to have to come down and serve that. And, oh, there's a car sliding on its roof. That's Vesti.
And a big one at the back part of the field, so just when you think things get a bit more bad luckish, there's a car stop. What in the world is that?
I think the Race Spot Space space program has started with that. I think that's all I'm going to say about that one. The car just being absolutely launched into the stratosphere, as is not what you like to see, but with this race being as it is, it's not entirely surprising, as you'll get to see another look. There's the spin, and then bang, right there. Pictures taken moments before disaster.
Should I mention that driver in the Sturwich had said prior to this race he knew he'd have a rough race potentially, but when he's smiling because of the competitors, I don't think he's smiling as much now since he brought one of those competitors and launched himself to the sky.
Sondergaard and Lauritzen were fighting into Lacombe, but Sondergaard has a penalty, so I'm not exactly sure why he's trying to scrap this hard, as maybe just for a bit of fun towards the back end of the season, but still, Lauritsen's not going to be too happy about how he's being harassed at the moment, considering the penalty in effect for the driver behind. But there we go. There's Jorgensen in the background, Christiansen as well, so that's going to be at least points being traded there for the P2, 3, 4 spots in the championship standings. But again, drop weeks in effect, so we won't exactly be sure of who is where until a couple of moments after the end of the session. But at least right now, we're starting to see a little bit of deja vu from race 1 at this point, because it's a leading pair of Jensen and Joachimsen this time around, and then you've got this train for P3 and back. It's exactly how it was in race 1.
Yeah, exactly. Only this time, Lauritsen, I mentioned there was a chance he'd make a difference in this grouping. He's the man in 3rd position instead. And mind you, Sondergaard still has to come down to service black flag, so this will make what is the only difference in 4 cars in the battle down to 3 in just a moment here to make it exactly the same pattern.
Yeah. Oh, Oh, but driver's missing that braking point. Oh, Sondergaard, he's gone down in towards pit lane there. That's him serving his penalty, but leaves it very close on the braking. And, well, between those yellow cones, he goes down to pit lane speed limit. Meanwhile, Jorgensen having a look on Lauritsen, sends it deep in towards Lasse Sørensen. They almost make contact, but everything is clean in the end between those two drivers. And, well, the more these guys fight, the more that allows Jensen and Jochimsen at the very front to get away. But Jorgensen, he's just focused on putting cars between him and Christensen at the moment.
Yeah, and the more these two scrap, the more chance Lauritsen has to break away from the slipstream here and hold on to this advantage for a podium spot. So it's just playing right into the hands of the number one car right now for these cars to continue to just scrap. If they stay single file and try and build up the slipstream, I think they're in a better shot to then put pressure back on Lauritsen, and then in turn force Lauritsen to a side-by-side position, and then it becomes the same cycle where the car gets control of the pack and try and pull away.
Yeah, it might be that situation. Christensen running on board with him at the moment in the simperformance.com car. You know, he's had a bit of a tough race. He started in pole position, but got caught up in that opening lap mess that was the front of the field. He steadily worked his way back through, though. He's certainly in a lot better of a position than Jensen is, that's for certain. And, well, he's come off a little bit better as a result of those opening couple lap problems. And now, still on for a top 5 finish. And if he can get the pass on Jorgensen here, then that'll be looking good for him in terms of the points. But, yeah, this is... you know, the middle portion of the race now, so things calm down just a little bit, although Jorgensen's looking poised to be able to have at least a little look into the bus stop, but not going to go for the lunge this time around. But he has been a driver that's been a fan of the lunge.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen this from a couple competitors, in fact, today, where if you leave the door open, because of the cooler track and temperatures, it's easier to send it in a little bit more, harder on the brakes. Drivers have been not afraid to do that today, and I don't blame Jorgensen if he tries it again. He tried a similar move to the inside of Lasse Sørensen the last time by. He's in a good spot to try and dive this time by at the end of the straight.
It all counts on this run through Radion. Oh, Jorgensen taking a lot of curb on that right-hand side, but he's seemingly okay. And now he can set up for the draft pass into Lecombe. You can see Lauritsen already going defensive. Meanwhile, that's the race lead there. Jensen and Jochimsen having a bit of a duel into that very same chicane. And, well, is you have to have eyes all over the place at the moment to see what's going on.
Yeah, head on the swivel, so to speak, here, because Mikkel Jensen, this was a potential possibility. Andreas Jochimsen showed some good speed in the first race. He's shown even better speed. With this help of the slipstream, he gained nearly 0.2 of a second that run in SimSport machine last time by. So I think Jochimsen has a chance to really challenge this machine. Here's the downside to this battling. We've seen Mikkel Jensen, if he loses the lead, he's not going to be afraid to try and send it back the second you leave any opening, any part of the racetrack. He's been not afraid to make any passes in non-passing zones today.
Yeah, that's the thing. Jochimsen, well, both of these drivers really have been drivers that are very threatening in their own right. You simply cannot leave the door open when it comes to either of these two. Jensen pushing a bit wide, coming through Stavelo 2, taking the Mikkel guard line. I guess I'll christen that as Jochimsen sitting inside that slipstream, coming up towards Blanchimont now, and they keep within the track limits this time around. But Jochimsen just showing the nose a little bit into the bus stop, but no commitment on the brakes to be able to do anything there, and the move simply wasn't on. But if you can just sit behind here, maybe even for the next 2 laps or so, and just be a presence, then that might rattle Jensen's cage.
I think what Jochimsen is trying to do here is just keep Jensen within range and just continue to use the slipstream. It's not going to help that there's a lap car now in the mix too, potentially. Just able to get on by them in proper timing, but it's in a good spot for Joachimsen. Just keep the driver in front within range, keep up the pressure, and know that you have to be ready to make a dive into the final chicane, I think, to be able to make the difference to win this race today, Connery.
Slipstream Fest coming down the cattle straight. There's a big defense from Mikkel Jensen. Joachimsen having to go the long way around. Can't quite complete anything into there. Meanwhile, Lauritsen and Jorgensen, they were also close coming up towards Lacombe, but it's the status quo in that battle as well. Everything remaining the same. But soon we might just see drivers get a little bit more forceful, and those well, doors might be used, those bumpers might take their names a bit too literally.
Let me put it this way, Connery. The reason why I said in the final chicane was Jensen is going to be blocking like crazy down the Kemmel Straight. It's not going to be easy to try and make the block to the final chicane, to the start and finish, to the finish line, I should rather say. That's the one spot where I think if Joachimsen is able to time up the gas well enough, better than a run that he had last lap, where he struggled off of Blanchimont, that might be his best chance to win this race and try and cut up the inside and then use, as you said, the bumpers and doors.
Yeah, it's less GT3 racing and more touring car racing in this race so far, and it might be in store for the very end as well. We will just have to wait and see. 7 minutes before the clock expires. We're looking at about 3 laps to go next time these guys pass the starting stand. As Jensen going very, very wide. Again, you just have to be careful with the instant limit here, and now slow it down to the slowest that you'll be all the way through the lap, down to around about 65 kilometers an hour at your slowest coming through that section. And Joachimsen's in a very, very good position at the moment. 3 laps to go across the line. Joachimsen try to nail the exit here out of La Source, and you'll be able to give yourself at least a bit of a chance coming down towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon. But it's the run through this fast sequence of corners that really benefits you when it comes to trying to make a pass down the Kemmel Straight, and Joachimsen has gotten a pretty good one at that, but don't think it's quite going to be enough to be able to do anything on this lap. But for Joachimsen, he does have a couple more opportunities. Look at that, already trying to break the draft is Jensen, and Joachimsen not in range for the big old dive. Meanwhile, Lauritsen and Jorgensen going side by side through the comb, but again, Lauritsen's able to come out on top.
Yeah, and both packs are seeing the same types of moves, albeit Lauritsen not as aggressively to play the defensive line. What we're seeing compared to the race leader in Jensen, I have to note, though, is he's doing it in a much different way, Connery, where it's really scrubbing speed off that number 30 car in comparison to Lauritsen, who is just trying to force the driver behind him to make a pass work on the outside, which hasn't worked for third on back.
Yeah, this is basically teasing the prospect of an extended side-by-side battle, both in this one for the race lead and in the one for the P3 as well. But look how closely Joachimsen following Jensen coming through La Fogne. That's not social distancing if I ever saw it, but Joachimsen, you know, he's doing all he can at the moment. He's doing all he really needs to do coming up towards the final couple of laps of this race. But now he's set up for the move, but now he needs to execute here, Justin. It might be into the bus stop this time, depending on how the Blanchimont goes. Jensen very, very wide, and I've already said all I need to say about that. And you can see the flashing of the lights from Joachimsen just exemplifies it.
Yeah, he knows exactly what is being done there from Jensen, let's put it that way. And that light shows the frustration of seeing what he's trying to do here to gain as much distance he can. If you're Joachimsen, you're frustrated with that. It's something Mikkel Gard did use on the final lap. Mikkel Jensen, he's using it almost every single lap.
Yeah, you can see Jensen's now just weaving down the old pit straight here, trying to break that draft. And, well, like you said, he's trying to pull every trick in the book out right now to try and keep this race lead. And he has a pretty healthy gap at the moment. Again, Joachimsen won't be close enough into Lecombe this time to be able to have an opportunity. But maybe Jorgensen and Lauritsen behind might be able to go for a duel again. No, they'll just stay in line. But, you know, this is all just shaping up to go absolutely bananas for the final 2 laps here. It's actually, we're on the border of it being 2 laps to go or 1 lap to go at the moment. So we'll have to keep a very close eye on the times because it's actively flicking between those 2 figures on my timing screens. So it potentially is 1 more to go, 2 more to go. Who knows?
Yeah, on my end, it's still 2 laps. The thing is, though, Connery, the reason why it can be so close is you have to remember the leader needs to see the white flag. The closest you can get is about a couple seconds before the finishing line, before you can get that white with the checkered, so to speak. So if you get within, say, the same straightaway, that might trigger the extra lap. It depends right now. It can come down to how these next 15 seconds go to see if it's a 1-lap shootout or 2 for Joachimsen.
Yeah, this is the thing. We'll just have to wait patiently. Yeah, Jensen will certainly be wanting this race to end early, that's for certain, because he, you know, there's only so much that pressure that he can withstand again wide through Blanchimont, and now this starts to get a little bit sketchy for Jensen. If he's deliberately doing that to try and gain an advantage, then the stewards might have a bit of a look. Lauritsen and Jorgensen battle in towards the final chicane. They come across the line with 2 minutes to go, so this is going to be, at least by my calculations, the final lap here of this race. Jorgensen having a look, at least go around the outside, cuts back to the inside, deep on the brakes into Lasse Sørensen. He's overshot the braking point though, and now Lauritsen's able to cut back on the inside to be able to get around him again. But these guys are still going to be close through Rouge and Radion, so definitely keep an eye on this, but keep an eye on that battle for the race lead, because Joachimsen has got an amazing run coming through Eau Rouge and Radion. He's going to be closer than he has been over the last couple of laps to being able to make a move down in towards Lecombe. Is he going to commit on the brakes? He forces Jensen to go defensive, and they're all clear coming towards the apex of the corner. Side by side behind though between Lauritsen and Jorgensen. Lauritsen a bit deep into the corner. Jorgensen trying to find a line back towards the inside. Almost contact between the 2 of them through Malmedy, and now Lauritsen defensive in towards Rivage. Battle for P3 up on screen for you at the moment as Jorgensen desperately tries to find a way by, but he's been unsuccessful so many times. Always the bridesmaid, but will he be the bride when it comes to that checkered flag? That is the big question. Lauritsen having to be defensive on the way in toward Pouon as well. Don't forget about that battle for the race lead though, because that could spark, that could ignite at any moment here, coming towards the final couple of sectors of the season in the Danish Esports Racing Championship. Lasse Bak has been your champion for the last couple of races. That's how dominant that he's been. But Mikkel Jensen, he's only focused on this race to win. So is Joachimsen, but things are going to be very, very close coming in towards the bus stop. I think it's going to have to be a last corner lunge for Joachimsen. He's in the position to be able to do it. Both of them go wide coming through Blanchimont. No holds barred in this one, but Joachimsen's not close enough to be able to make the dive in towards the first apex. Second apex, can he get the line off? He can't, and Mikkel Jensen will end up coming across the line to win race number 2 here at Spa-Francorchamps. The final race of the season goes his way. Lauritsen holds on for P number 3 as well, as it looks like those battles have remained as they were, but things got very close there towards the end.
Yeah, very close, very dicey indeed, and I don't blame Joachimsen to using that extra line space on the final run through Blanchimont. It was his one shot here, Connery, I think, to have a chance for the win. In turn, good sportsmanship and racecraft from the 017, I have to say, throughout this race, 0.3 of a second back, and that might just be enough to squeak home a top 2 finish in the standings.
Yep, it might just be enough. We'll get further confirmation of that in just a couple of moments though, but here are your official race results from race 2 of Spa-Francorchamps, the final race of this season's Danish Esport Racing Championship. Mikkel Jensen on the top of the pile by 0.3 of a second. We also see Alexander Lauritzen coming home with a podium at the end here. We have Frederik Jorgensen P4, Martin Christensen P5, Rasmus Busk in P6, Matthias Jensen P7, Martin Bertelsen P8, Marcus Jensen in 9th, and Lasse back in P10 after gaining 24 positions, Justin.
Thijs Woodsko finished in 11th. Ole Oster quietly ran in 12th position, while Visborg finished in 13th spot after having trouble in race 1. John Nielsen 14th. Kasper Soltze, after his bumping contact in the 050, finished in 15th. Sodergaard shuffled out to 16th after his stop-and-go penalty, pulling top 17th. Lindenskov in 18th. Vastesen in 19th. Peterson rounded out their top 20.
P21 will go to Peter Bollingtoft with Stefan Overgaard in P22, and then your drivers 1 lap down or more. Christiansen, Nestavaric, you got Bremer, Moller, Sørensen, Danielsen, Hartvig, Hirsen down in P30, and then of course you have Dennis Lind there with the incident that we saw through Lacombe, comes home P21. Vesti with a big incident as well, comes home 32nd. Kevin Nielsen P33, Nicki Thiim P34 after hitting the inside wall at La Source. We see Mikkel Gard come home in P35 after an incident as well, so a lot of incidents taking out front runners here. Dali Jankovic in P36, and it's Jan Magnussen in P37. But with that, that's the racing done here today, and that's the racing done for the entire season as well in the Danish Esports Racing Championship. But don't go away, because we have our final post-race show just after this.
Coming up to the line, being chased, and it was Braden Johnson. Unbelievable finish. It was 1/1000th of a second between them.
Green flag in the air. We are racing in the 2020 24 Hours of Daytona.
They go door to door for the feature race lead here on the last lap of the race. Side for the race lead in the final corner at Homestead. Down the back straightaway, 3 wide again for the race lead. This is unbelievable stuff here tonight.
Loma is going to have to be very deep on the brakes, and he is very deep on the brakes. It's side by side through the corner. This is for the win.
It'll be side by side. Davies low, Ottinger high. To the very inside is Garrett Low. 4 wide at the stripe. For all his work here on this outside line, neck and neck. Who's going to back out? Does anyone back out? Verstappen starts to squeeze on the inside, and now he'll try and straight line it. Goes under the apron, drag race to the line. It's so close to call.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the post-race show of the Danish Esports Racing Championship. You can even call it the post-season show at this point. We're all done in terms of the racing for this season. I am Connery Maddock. I'm joined by Justin Prince, Hugo Luis downstairs, pushing all those buttons to make the cameras and the graphics happen. And without further ado, we'll be moving quickly on because we have Lasse back joining us in the commentary booth. Lasse, you decided to go for the last to first challenge in both races here today. You got yourself up into the top 10 in that last one, but I think the main thing is that, you know, we talked about this a couple of events ago. You are the champion, of course, and now it's basically very, very official.
Yeah, you can. I think you could call it official now. The first times was really fun. The first one I took it a bit easy, just to see what happened. And then the second race I went in a little bit more in the start, and I took the start and I overtook a lot of people. But yeah, overall I'm extremely happy right now. It's amazing to be P1 in this championship. There's a lot of quick guys in this series. Yeah, it has been a lot of practicing through all the races and the rounds, and yeah, I also met a lot of people through the way, and I don't know what to say right now, but yeah, it's definitely very, very nice to come out on top.
Yeah, it is. We're actually watching your first lap in that race too, up on the viewer screens at the moment. You're just like scything through the field like they were absolutely nothing. And of course, the incidents towards the front really helped you gain those positions as well. As I'm not sure how much you actually saw of it from your position, but it seemed like those guys at the front were really, really bumping and barging each other, at points during that race. Is that something that you would have expected coming into the final race of the season, or is that a surprise?
No, I definitely expected to be a lot of bumping in this race, because of course it's the last race of the season. There's always a lot of going on in all the races, if it's NASCAR or GT or anything. Always the last race, it's always a lot of bumping. But yeah, I definitely saw a bit of some guys spin out in the last race, so yeah, I got a bit of position of that.
Yeah, we were able to gain quite a bit, and of course, when it comes to being a champion, you also have to try and defend your championship as well. So what are the plans for the next season of the Danish Esports Racing Championship?
I think I'm maybe gonna participate in it. It depends on what is going on. If there's a bigger series, worldwide series that I'm in, that I wanna focus on. But for now, I think I'm gonna participate in it in the next one and try to defend. But I think next time it's gonna be a lot more difficult. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. We're a long time from that point at the moment. But after what has been an amazing season for you, picking up multiple double wins in events that we've had in this season, is there anything that this season you would have done even slightly differently, even though you have won the championship? Is there anything that you would like to improve on coming into next season, or are you just feeling very, very comfortable right now?
I'm feeling comfortable, but you can definitely improve. I feel like I can definitely improve on some things, like the way you practice. I think I can do things a little bit different there, so it's a little bit more like I gain a little bit more out of my laps. But I don't know. Overall, I'm feeling pretty good right now. I feel like my pace has been very good. So yeah, I'm in a pretty good spot.
Is there anyone you want to thank, or is there any sponsors you want to shout out? And feel free to do it in Danish as well.
Ja, jeg vil gerne sige tak til DERC Competition og til Lovenko og El-Service og til ESR for at lave den her kæmpe event her. Det har været rigtig, rigtig fedt at få den her event på benen her. Det har lært rigtig meget som en kører også at køre med i det her. Det tror jeg også, der er mange andre, der har, som jeg har snakket med. Men ja, det har været fedt hele vejen igennem. Og tak til alle dem, som har trænet med. Til min teamkammerat Martin. Det har været mega hyggeligt. Martin Buk-Berlsen. Det har været mega hyggeligt at køre sammen med ham. Og Frederik Vesti her, som vi også lige kørte herop til runden her. Det har været rigtig fedt.
Well, there we go. Lasse back, your 2020 Danish Esports Sim Racing champion for RS competition. Lost the first challenge in the final two races of the season here, but has been absolutely incredible throughout the entire season. Very well done, Lasse. Congratulations, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you very much.
Well, there we go. That was Lasse back. And, well, we actually have Andreas Joachimsen waiting in the wings. And Justin, you're standing by with him.
Yes, indeed. Andreas Joachimsen joined us here in the broadcast booth. Came home in second in race number 2. Also had some good scraps in race number 1. First off, Mr. Joachimsen, how do you feel at the moment after some good, hard-fought racing throughout the day today?
Yeah, I'm feeling okay, I would say. It was really fun in the second race, together with battling out with Mikkel Jensen. So yeah, it was good fun. I'm just a bit pissed off right now that I didn't get the position, but it is what it is, and yeah, and I think the other way around, I didn't really want to risk anything because I'm still driving for something in the championship. As I saw, Martin and Marcus had some troubles, so I don't know where they ended, but I just felt like I didn't want to risk anything because Mikkel was a wildcard driver of this race, and I was pretty much driving for the championship. So
okay, that's an interesting point that I wanted to bring up actually in terms of that. Race number 1 put you in a good championship position. Still waiting for the official results after race number 2, but talk us through how the wild cards really affected how the racing went today from your perspective and brought some interesting battles.
As you were saying, they were they was also racing this race, and they made a big impact on this race, I think. I mean, in a good way, I think it's good to have them also on board, and bringing some viewers and stuff like that. Of course, I mean, they were impacting the race like it was. They was sort of like not really fighting for anything, so they was more likely concentrated about getting a good result in each race, where some of us, which is battling it out for the championship, has to think about that as well. I actually think I'm not sure that if Nicki took somebody out with him when he spun, but yeah, that's how things is going, and that's how you can see they're having an effect on or an influence on the races. So.
Yeah, Sørensen actually got a penalty, I believe, in that incident after team hit the wall, and then Sørensen hit the back end in that regard. But overall, it was a strong championship campaign in the fight amongst the top 5 much of the season for Ronin Simsport. First of all, will we see you back for next season's competition in the DERC?
Yeah, definitely. If the schedule is going to allow me that. I mean, now everything is a bit a bit weird situation with this coronavirus for the real racing stuff, so I'm not really sure what's going to happen there. But yeah, I mean, if the calendar allows that, I'm on it for next year as well. I mean, I was on it season 1 as well. I think it's good fun, especially here in the winter period or in the off season of the real racing, to keep you sharp. And I mean, it's really good fun. Sometimes you can actually forget that it's a sim racing game, because iRacing especially is such a competitive game, and you see a lot of real racers battling it out with all the sim racers. So yeah, definitely I'm on for next year again.
What do you feel you might need to improve upon for a chance to take home the title in season 3?
I think that's a bit of a tough question, because I think there's more than one thing, but I think mainly it's the practice. I think a few rounds ago I also mentioned that I'm normally not doing more than 50 laps for a race of practice, because I have other things to do as well. So I think practice is probably the main thing. It's hard to see how much I could gain if I did more laps, but I feel that some of the other drivers is practicing a lot more than me. So sometimes it can be really difficult to put in that perfect lap time for a quali lap, or sometimes you're just picking up the pace. in the middle of the races and stuff like that. So yeah, I think practice is probably where I have to improve the most.
10-4 on that. But second to last question. Of course, you mentioned the real life experience coming up. That's currently being affected by world issues in real life. DF1 Racing is where you'll be making your NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series debut in 2020 at some point. They were watching on. They said he had a great race the second heat today. What would you like to say in terms of that, knowing you're actually competing against the Division 1 driver for that team this upcoming season?
Yeah, I mean, I would say, first of all, I would say thanks to DF1 Racing, my Euro NASCAR team. I also had some great battles with Lasse, which is going to be my teammate in this season. He's going to drive the Pro Division, and I'm going to drive the Euro NASCAR too. But yeah, we're still going to be in the same team, so it was fun to have a battle with him in the sim racing world as well. But yeah, funny they looked or they watched the race as well today. So yeah, of course, thanks to them, and thanks to everybody else that watched the race, basically, because this is what, I mean, esport is growing a lot these years, so you can definitely see which direction it's pointing. There's also starting to get some money involved in this, actually quite a lot. So, so yeah, I mean, it's definitely funny that people can relate to real racing stuff with this.
Anyone you want to thank before we let you go, and you, if you want, can say that in Danish, as our points champion said.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just gonna say it in English, but I wanna say thanks to Ronnie Sport, the sim racing team I'm involved in, for helping me out for basically every round, not only in this series but also the other series which we have been participating in, and I want to say thanks to ESR for making up this series. I think it's really good fun to have this national Danish championship. So yeah, I want to say thanks to everybody which has been watching today, and all the other races, and of course you guys at RaceBot for bringing a good broadcast.
Thank you very much for the time, Mr. Joachimsen. Congratulations on the second place in heat race number 2. Congratulations on a stellar campaign.
Thank you.
And Andreas Joachimsen, very professional, very thorough in his responses. Connery, back over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there we go. We also have another interview with Martin Christiansen this time around. And well, Martin, the first race went better for you than the second race. Just sum up the last event of the season from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, the pace was there for sure. Like, I've really felt like I showed that off in qualifying. Races didn't go too well. The first one, nice fight with Mikkel. He was fair throughout the whole race. I just made 2 huge mistakes on the same lap, and of course that opened the door for him. So he went for the gap. Bit crazy doing that in Blanchimont, but of course, yeah, it's the last race, and I saw it coming, so I just let him pass. And my main competitor this round was Mikkel Jensen. Going into this race, he was only 15 points behind me, so that was the main thing. And I also had a spot on for the entire race, so he was just consistently reminding me it's Marcus Jensen we are fighting, so that's the one person we need to beat. And for the second race, again went great. Got a good launch down the Camel Straight, everything felt fine. I got squeezed a bit by Mikkel Jensen. And the move he made, I got really surprised, because he was on my outside and then he was on my inside, and I felt like I gave him all the room he needed. But he locked up his tires. When these cars go in ABS, there's nothing you can do, and he just rammed me off the road. So I don't know. From my perspective, it was a bit silly. It was definitely avoidable contact, but yeah, still managed to keep, what was it in the end, P5, and outscoring Jensen again. So P2 in the championship, so I can't really complain.
Yeah, I can't complain as well. It's been an overall pretty decent season for you here in this one. But looking to next season, is there, what are you going to do to be able to make sure you're in the best position possible to be able to take the championship next time?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Like, for sure, keeping up with Lasse will be the first. The back will be the first one. I think I'm getting there, but I still, like, that kid is just insane. And big kudos to Lasse. I really had a fun time fighting him this season. He's kept me on my toes, that's for sure. But just overall, like, finishing races, don't make solo mistakes. Like, I did that again today. So I really have to maybe think of something, a different mental approach, you know, maybe do some mental coaching, mental practice, just because I get so nervous before the start of each race, and that results in mistakes. So yeah, I think pace-wise I'm there, but it's just everything around it, and you really have to approach this, especially this kind of esport, with like a sportsman-like mentality. You know, what you do outside of the sim rig will really affect how you perform inside the rig.
Yeah, that's one of the main things that gets talked about a lot with a lot of teams actually having, you know, professional sports psychologists and things like that trying to help out, because, you know, every single little advantage possible, you know, it's all going to add up in the end. But, you know, since we do have to wrap up here shortly, is there anything you want to say before we, well, finish off the season?
Yeah, just a huge thanks to the team I was driving for this season, Sim Performance, and I would encourage you guys to check them out. And then also to the whole ESR for putting up this championship, and yeah, the great prizes as well. And of course to all the other drivers for it's been a really good season. And then I also want to give a big shout out to Bas Visser for being my spotter today. He really helped out a lot. So yeah, cheers guys.
Well, there we go. Martin Christiansen, P2 in the point standings, and well, P5 in that second race here today. But overall, Justin, it's an absolutely solid season for him, and you know, given, you know, a little bit of a step up in performance for next season, then he's going to be, you know, he's going to be maybe challenging back if Back decides to actually defend this championship.
I think so, because we've seen Christensen a few times this season alone have chances where he could have taken victories from Back, but in turn, Back's long-term pace just set the tempo for the many of the rounds and heat races this season. So I think absolutely Christensen could be a threat for the championship, and don't discredit Jochimsen either. He's somebody that I think could also be a challenger. He was somebody who was a threat for podium positions all throughout the season this year. If he improves, he might be able to get into the pattern to be in that conversation as well.
A lot of things to look forward to for the next season of the Danish Esports Racing Championship, but that is going to be it for this season. Lasse Bak is your champion, and fantastic fights up and down the field that we've seen today and we've seen throughout the season as well. Join us for the next season of the Danish Esports Racing Championship. Yet to be announced when the schedule for that is going to be, but if the racing this season is anything to go by, then you do not want to miss it. I've been Connery Maddock. That's been Justin Prince. We've had Hugo Luis behind the scenes making everything happen. We are RaceSpot TV, and we'll see you guys whenever we get to see you.